I like to light a candle before I share, and it is actually a candle that I got from Ricky Byers because she and I are very, very good friends. And for 25 years, we have facilitated the Solstice Retreat, which is coming up in August. So I am really delighted. I do have my Sunday morning online service, and so this is a treat for me to be back in the afternoon doing this, and feels wonderful. So thank you. Perhaps you read that the topic today is the perfect prayer. And I don't know what your background is or what your experience is with prayer. We're all so different, and we have such different experiences through our lives, depending on where and when we grew up and how we were raised and what the values in the home were. And when it comes to prayer, I don't know, what it was like for you, but I know that there are a variety of approaches to it, and some of them have to do with fear, and some have to do with honor, and some have to do with adoration. You may have been raised thinking that God was an old man in the sky, or that it was the Mother Earth, or anything in between. There may have been postures or directions or dimensions or seasons that were connected with the way that you pray. It might have been rote repetition. It might have been somebody reading something from a book. There may have been prayer beads or prayer bowls or prayer flags or prayer wheels involved in it. It may be that prayer was required, that you didn't have a choice, or it might have been forbidden. There's a whole range of experiences, but I would ask you if you would just take a moment to reflect upon what your experience was. When and if you started praying, and what it was like for you, and who, if anyone, was there with you to support you in the process. And I would also like to ask that you, rather than taking anything that I say so literally or exactly at face value, that you invite a sense of spaciousness and openness and receptivity to the things that I may be sharing with you. But I know that unity is considered a new thought, spiritual path, and that we believe in affirmative prayer. And so we're not begging God, we're not pleading, we're not bargaining, we're not trying to cut a deal, we're not trying to bribe God into giving us something that we think that you want. And so it raises the question, well, what exactly is this prayer that we're involved in? What is it all about? And some people say, rather simplistically, that prayer is talking to God and meditation is listening to God. But I wonder if whatever that connection is that we're calling prayer can't be all of that and more. And to be aware that prayer is not always about using words, although there are many examples where words are used. But I found this place, James Stillage Freeman, who was an author and a poet and a minister with Unity for 70 years. I'm sure you know a lot of the things that he wrote. But he did say that prayer is a time of words, but it is also a time of silence. Often at our encounter with God, no words are spoken at all, for we pray with our attitudes. Curiosity is a prayer. So is grasping and clutching. The prayer that is grasping and clutching has, of course, a different answer than the prayer that is generosity. Courageously going forward to face what has to be faced is a prayer. So is running away. Keeping faith in the good, in the face of all the appearances to the contrary, is a prayer. So is failing to keep faith. All of these prayers have different answers. He also said that prayer focuses thought on God, the way that a compass keeps its needle turned to north. If I am a traveler, I carry the compass with its needles turning always north, not only when I want to go north, but so that wherever I have to go, I can find the way. With my thought God-centered, I can go in any direction from that center and not be lost. Though I may not always see my destination, I can find my way. This prayer that we're speaking of today it's a portal, it's a pathway. It aligns us, it attunes us with that which is divine. This prayer heightens our awareness of the divine. And we might hear a prayer and say, oh, that's a cool prayer, a dynamic prayer. That's a righteous prayer. But what is a perfect prayer? Maybe the timing, maybe somebody prays just at the time that you needed a prayer. Maybe it's about the length of the prayer, not too long, not too short, just right. Maybe it's the feeling tone or the quality of the prayer. Perhaps it depends on who's praying. Maybe it depends on who's listening. Maybe that it's encouraging, or it's compelling, or it's inspiring. It has the right steps and the right number of steps in the right order. We have lots of examples of prayers with words. The Lord's Prayer, the Serenity Prayer, the Unity Prayer, the Prayer of St. Francis. But this is the opportunity here, and many other prayers too that are in different languages and prayers that are not famous to us, that are famous to people in another spiritual path, because every spiritual path has this idea somehow of communing and connecting with the divine. But in asking you not to take everything at first value is because prayer allows us to see through what's appearing. It allows us to see beyond what's showing up right in front of us, and to be able to know what is actually true, in spite of maybe the truth being invisible at the time and other things being so obvious and invisible, but to be able to see through that. So what is it that makes a prayer perfect? Perhaps you've heard of the poet Mary Oliver. I really like what she writes, and I like what she wrote about prayer. She says it doesn't have to be perfect. Mary Oliver says it doesn't have to be the blue iris. It could be weeds in a parking lot, or a few weeds in a vacant lot, or a few small stones. You just pay attention and patch a few words together. And don't try to make them elaborate. This is not a contest. It's a doorway into thanks and into silence in which another voice may speak. So in other words, she's saying that a prayer doesn't have to be fancy or fine. I've had a lot of experience with prayer. I prayed a lot when I was a little girl. Most of my time was praying and daydreaming and thinking about God and thinking about angels and so forth. And as a minister and as a practitioner, many people from time to time will ask for prayer. And there are people that I want to pray for, things that I become aware of. There are times when I need to pray for myself. In thinking about a perfect prayer, some people would say, well, a perfect prayer is an answered prayer, right? If it's answered, then that makes it perfect. And sometimes we come to God with a shopping list. If I ask people what they'd like me to pray for, well, of this and that, and we've got a whole list, and it's like we're bringing that to God. And then we're expecting the answer to come like signed, sealed, and delivered, like Amazon brings to our front door. And when it doesn't, sometimes we think, well, something must have been wrong with the prayer. Or maybe I don't know how to pray. Or maybe God is ignoring me. Maybe God has forgotten about me. Maybe God is punishing me. And of course, none of those things are true. impossible. And I found this piece by Lowell Fillmore, who is the son of the founders of Unity, and it's called The Answer. And this is what he writes. He says, when for a purpose I had prayed and prayed and prayed until my words seemed worn and bare with arduous use, and I had knocked and asked and knocked and asked and knocked and asked again, and all of my fervor and my persistence brought no hope, I paused to give my weary brain a rest and ceased my anxious human cry. In that still moment, after self had tried and failed, there came a glorious vision of God's power. And my prayer was answered in that. In that still moment, when I stopped asking and trying and expecting something, this wondrous vision of the power and presence of God, and the prayer was answered. When I prepare a talk and I'm kind of working with it, it's kind of working with me. And many times the things that I'm saying or sharing, I find myself in the middle of experiencing. So I did have these two experiences, well, actually three, yesterday and this morning again, with a prayer that didn't have words. And I find that when I feel the call to pray for someone, the greatest challenge is what I've seen. So I've seen the person in the nursing home, or I've seen the person on Facebook in the hospital room, or I feel their palms are sweaty, they're anxious, or I feel my own heart that's racing, or I hear somebody trying to breathe, or I've heard the diagnosis of the doctor, and I get carried away with what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels like. And yet the call comes for prayer, and then there is this issue with the appearance of things. So I found this, maybe you've heard of Meister Eckhart, who's a German mystic, and he said that when the soul wants to have an experience of something, she throws an image of that experience out ahead of her, and then she enters into her own image. So instead of throwing an image out in front of myself as I wanted to begin to pray for someone, I let myself open the experience for myself. I let myself align myself and attune myself with the presence. And you might think of it as kind of like a meditation, or you might think of it as kind of like a prayer, but there's a sense that there is an alignment and there is an attunement with the Holy Presence. And I feel like somehow my vibration lifts higher than what we ordinarily experience. And I just imagine myself, it feels like what it must feel like to be in the kingdom. That's the only way that I can really just say to you that we are in the world, but we're not of the world. And so while I was in the world, I recognize myself as being of the kingdom, because we're spiritual beings, and this is where we come from. We come from the kingdom of heaven, here to learn more about it here on this earth. And I think about it as I just say to myself, I just want to know God. I just want to know God. And it's not like I'm trying to push other things away or, deny anything. I just want to know God, that's what I become interested in. That is where my interest is focused. And I saw that White Eagle said that the way to pray is to put yourself into complete attunement with the spirit of love. He says, be in it, live in it. He says, think not of yourself, of your earthly need, but of God. And so that translates to me of just know God, just see God without needing to be against anything. But this is where my focus is, on the holy presence. And as I begin to move into this space of alignment, here comes this picture of the person that I really want to pray for. And the person is looking not well and not doing well. And the picture, like mockingly, says to me, it feels like, here I am, this is the way I look, this is what's happening with me right now. And I could experience myself saying, you are an appearance. I don't trust an appearance. Appearance can change, it can morph into something else, change into something else. God never changes. Whatever you call God, the creator, the spirit, it never changes. It's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And so I'm not interested in an appearance. I'm interested in the presence. And so I just allowed myself to be in that space of being interested in the presence. And then I invited, in my heart, I invited the person that I wanted to pray for into that space. And there was nothing to do. I was in that space. It felt like being in the kingdom, and I invited the person that I wanted to pray for or with or about into this space. And then other people that I'd been praying for came into the space. There was no gatekeeper. There was no admission fee. There was no need for a password. There was no bouncer. We were just in this, I'll say, rarefied atmosphere of love. We're just there. And after a bit, I started to wonder, well, how do I leave? What do I do with everybody? And then I realized I didn't have to leave. I could just take the experience where I thought I was leaving. I could just take it with me wherever I was going. And that's exactly what happened. I don't have a sense. I can't tell you like when it stopped, because it didn't really stop. It just, the experience of it just kind of flowed into the regular thing, whatever that regular thing is. So instead of like throwing something out in front of me and moving into it, I opened up within myself this space that was like a prayerful awareness for me and the people that I wanted to pray for. And I call that a perfect prayer. No words, no need for words. And another spiritual teacher said, go where your best prayers lead you. And that prayer led me into this, that I guess that experience led me into this environment of knowing the presence of God where the people were. And in this, in the kingdom, in that space, there is no disease. There is no disappointment. There is no despair. There is no war. And it's rather difficult for us to envision an environment like that in this dimension. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, because it certainly does exist. And where It exists within every one of us. This is where we were birthed. This is the stuff out of what we were created. We are divine beings having this human experience. Ernest Holmes says that spirit can only give us what we're willing to take. And in the kingdom, everything of good is available for us. It's all there. We don't even have to pick and choose. It's all one. It is all for us, and nothing is against us. Everything is available without begging, without pleading, without commanding. The master teacher said, Jesus, if you exalt all things to spirit, they are in existence already. If we lift everything into the vibration of the all good, everything that we could desire or require is already there. That's what it means to live and move and have our being in kingdom. So that we're not coming to the presence with a shopping list and an invoice, but we're allowing ourselves to be in the presence with a thank you note for that which we have already received. It's a very different approach. We can be in the world, but not of it. That is who we really are. We can be of the kingdom. And like the flow in the flower and the blow in the blower, in prayer, you are the prayer. You are the prayer. You get to be the prayer. So I'd like to just close with this piece by a poet and Episcopal priest named Alla Bozart. And she writes, be your prayer. Be awake to the life that is loving you and sing your prayer. Laugh your prayer, dance your prayer, run and weep and sweat your prayer, sleep your prayer, eat your prayer, paint, sculpt, hammer, and read your prayer. Sweep, dig, rake, drive, and hold your prayer. Garden and farm, and build and clean your prayer. Wash, iron, vacuum, sew, embroider, and pickle your prayer. Compute, touch, bend, and fold, but never delete or mutilate your prayer. Learn and play your prayer. Work and rest your prayer. Fast and feast your prayer. Argue, talk, whisper, listen, shout your prayer. Groan and moan and spit and sneeze your prayer. Swim and hunt and cook your prayer. Digest and become your prayer. Release and recover your prayer. Breathe your prayer. Be your prayer. There is no more perfect prayer than you. I'd like to invite you into just a moment of prayer. You don't have to have words. It can be a prayer of thanksgiving. It can be a prayer of praise. It can be a prayer of acceptance of the good that we think we are seeking. And in gratitude, we realize that the gift was already given. And so in honor and praise, we bless one another. We bless this space. We lift one another and support one another. We look for and see light everywhere. We accept divine direction, wisdom, intelligence, and guidance. And we multiply the good simply by allowing ourselves to be that which we are created to be. For this and for so much more than words can say, we are eternally grateful and thankful. And we just let it be by saying, and so it is. Amen.
Pray for me when my heart is sinking fast and holding on to what I thought would last. Oh, lift me up when I can't let go. I'm wrapped in love when you pray for me. Pray for me when things turn upside down and all seems lost, with no light to be found. Oh, lift me up and I will find a greater peace when you pray for me. Pray for me and I will make it through. And from this place I can see what is true. There is a blessing in every breath, and a love that's real beyond the veil of death. Pray for me, oh, pray for me. I will pray for you, and you pray for me.
Thank you, Margot. Just briefly, I'd like to just acknowledging the thought about prayer being moving into this presence, moving into the presence of the God of our understanding, as each one of us do, and we create this prayer collective here with all of us that we're called to be in this Zoom room today. Let's just envision that perfect space, that space where everything is possible, where all is healed, and just see the energy of that space as we bring beautiful prayer space, this field of infinite possibility. Let's invite them here right now. I'm so grateful for this healing, which I know is already done. And so it is.
Oh, goodness. Look at that beautiful ocean scene. As we go into prayer, let's just close our eyes, take a deep cleansing breath. We open our hearts in love. We are in grateful anticipation of the blessings of today's service. The music, Reverend Greta's message, and every moment we share with our Unity family. We affirm Spirit is everywhere around us and within us. And let us go into meditation. Take another deep breath. Gently either close your eyes or focus on the beautiful ocean scene on the screen. Gazing at that ocean on the screen or in your mind, feel a gentle peace coming over you. The sound of the ocean is like the breath of nature. As the waves hit the beach and recede, inhaling and exhaling. Just as being in nature brings you peace, so does your breath. There is a synchronicity between us and nature. The waves going in and out, our rhythmic breath, the beating of our hearts. Just feel the peace of this present moment. If you turn your palms up, you can feel the energy of the universe. We are all vibration, all divinely connected. Breathing into this blessed feeling, we know we were all one as we go into the silence. As each ocean wave must return to the sea, we now return to the present, feeling relaxed, refreshed, and oh so very blessed. And so it is.